Hey guys, I'm here on a fine Friday morning because I woke up, had my coffee, ran to the bank, and started scrolling Twitter. Catch up on some reveals. Boss reprint, soft reprint of Force to shove giant plants. It's gonna be a interesting meta soon. I'm not mad, but maybe a little disappointed. But yeah, it's fine. But yeah. Besides that, maybe Pokemon Shadow dropped regional location, Shadow dropped registration, so just checking Twitter is never a bad thing, and I happened across a tier list, a beautiful tier list. Now, I usually don't take these very seriously, but when I saw the Metafy plug, I knew this one was legit, and it was not rage bait, despite Guardy being in A tier, Boltor being in B tier, and Zoric in C tier. Now, with this disrespect, I figured I had to do something, so here I am to provide my 100% accurate tier list, completely unbiased, but yeah. So, let's just get into it. Alright guys, I'm here at the tier list. I'm going to go through it S to D tier in that order, and I'm going to categorize how I think everything fits into each category. So to me, S tier decks are, if you play them, you're going to have the highest odds of winning the event just based on how powerful the decks are and the skill expression you get with them. A tier decks, I think, could win the event, but are pretty good for a top 8 finish or a top 16 32. B tier decks, I think, could win the event, but it's a lot less likely than A and S tier decks. And it's more so they're missing something, whether that be the list still needs to be optimized or you need to hit matchup roulette and just hit a bunch of positive matchups. So they're a little bit weaker, but they're still solid plays. Now, C and D tier is where I wouldn't really be considering these decks. Now, C tier, it just is struggling a little too much into the meta, and it's just not really worth playing. And then D tier, I think you're just throwing away your World's Invite if you play these. But some of them, you can get lucky and win. But yeah. So I'm gonna start with S tier, where this is where I think Gardevoir is just the best deck. The thing with Gardevoir is you can just build it so differently. If you're expecting a bunch of aggressive decks, you can play the Drifloon triple charm build and 4 research, 4 Iono, just dig through your deck with Cleffa and researches, and you just kind of hit everything whenever you need it and trade really positively into the format. However, if you're expecting a slower format with more Grimmsnarls and Pults, then something like the 4 Monkey Turbo Energize build becomes a lot better, as you're kind of playing a more control deck. And it's the deck's really flexible, it has so many options and lines, and it's so good. I don't know what TPC I thought when they were printing Gardevoir. And then they printed Monkey Dory too, and that card is it exceeds all expectations. But yeah, Gardevoir also just has a fantastic matchup spread. You never feel out of any game. And that's kind of the thing that I want in an S tier deck. If you never feel out of any game, that means your games are going to come down to your skill and comfortability with the deck. So it's just a really good play for the World Championships. And talking about decks that are never really out of it or have a really solid chance in every matchup is Dragapult Dusknoir. Now, this deck is so fun. You just play games and you're never out of them. You have so many lines with the Dusknoirs and the Blood Moon that even if you prize all your Dragapults, you can still win games fairly comfortably. The deck is just impressive. It exceeds all my expectations. Your worst matchup is 45-55. You just Itchy Pollen into Dusknoirs and Dragapult. It's just so overpowered. We just consistently see the top players ace-simming with this deck. And the same thing with Gardevoir. No other deck has the level of consistency as these two, especially at the level they're played at. It's super impressive to see. And I think these decks are completely disrespected and do not lose to Goldengo as hard as everybody thinks they do. And it's gonna pave the way for both the decks to do really well at Worlds because people don't understand the Goldengo matchup versus these. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at for the S tier. I don't think anything else is here. I think these are just the two best decks. They have been since rotation. We saw them in finals of Atlanta, and they both keep doing so well. And yeah. Now, just below S tier with the A tier, I think we have Goldengo and Grimmsnarl. I think these two are really close together. I think both are really strong decks. However, they both kind of struggle into Poltnor, and Goldengo at least doesn't feel as good into Guardy. But even Grimmsnarl, against the 4 Monkey builds, doesn't feel great into Guardy. The only thing is Goldengo with the 4 Boss build definitely has solid chances into Grimmsnarl just because they can super aggressively target the Frostlasses, and they're just super consistent and putting on pressure really fast. So I think these two decks are the top of A tier. I really like both of them. They both have this really cool ability where Grimmsnarl always has a stadium in play, and then Goldengo always has the Genesect in play, because your opponent kind of wants to leave the Genesect for the end, just based on how decks prize map, because the Genesect is relatively easy to KO for like Dragapult, Dusknoir, or Guardy, like Blood Moon, or just a single Monkey, Adrenabrain, and Miracle Force. But they have this really cool thing where they get to shuffle their deck, and that's a really important skill in the meta right now, knowing when to like shuffle your deck, because you have Iono putting cards to the bottom. So it helps. It's really a game of statistics. Like, what do you need to find? Are the cards on your bottom helping you find that combo? And it really paves the way for a lot of skill expression. And yeah, I think they're really good decks also, just as a whole. Like, they're both pretty consistent, but they do have like a little bit of a lower power level than Poltnor and Guardy, I feel, and a lot less flexibility in deck building. Like, every time I try to like change cards in Goldengo, like all the cuts feel bad. Same thing with Grimmsnarl. It's like I'm cutting consistency for text, which I hate doing, but yeah. Now, the rest of the A tier, I think, is honestly just like straight Polt and maybe Enzorg. So straight Polt, the thing it has with it versus Poltnor is you lose a bit of the power level and kind of have a worse Guardy matchup, but your deck is a lot more consistent and can play cards like the second Monkey Dory, Professor Turret Scenario, the baby Genesect that shuts off Ace Specs, and it really lets you like tech your deck however you want, and that's really strong. However, it's like, the deck does just feel worse than Poltnor is what I found. Like, you're playing more games, but the games you play, like, I feel like I set up Dracloaks just less often. Like, it all just feels slightly worse, and you have less comeback potential if you do miss. Whereas like Poltnor can like miss turns early and then just still win the games very easily. So yeah. Enzorg, I think it's either bottom of A or top of B tier. I really just think the deck needs to be cracked. Like, I'm not sure what the optimal list is. I wrote an article on it a couple days ago. You can go check that out. I think those lists are really strong, but I'm not quite sure how to beat like all the top decks. I think you have really good odds into Guardy and Poltnor, and like okay odds into Grimmsnarl, and then bad odds into Dengo with just like a straight Zorg list. So it's kind of like, how do you choose what text to play without harming the consistency too much that your other matchups suffer, and while buffing the Goldengo matchup, because I think Goldengo's going to be really popular, and the matchup's like really tough in certain builds. Like, if you're not playing the Darmanitan at all, the matchup's like almost unwinnable if they set up. So yeah, it's really just like getting the right list, and also the deck is just incredibly hard to play, so a lot of people misunderstand its power level, I feel. But yeah. For B tier, I think these are just like mediocre decks. Like, they just kind of have like weaker matchups, but they are like good overall. Like, I'd say Flareon Noctowl has like the best matchup spread out of these, but it is also the least consistent. Like, the deck just folds to like Iono to 4+ Itchy Pollen a lot of the time, and that's what I really don't like about the deck. It is also, similarly to Zorg, difficult to play, so a lot of the matchups can be misunderstood, but yeah. I think Flareon Noctowl is like kind of a sus play just on that basis that like the Guardy matchup's not good, the Poltnor matchup's pretty close, the Goldengo matchup's really good though, and the Grimmsnarl matchup is like, it's also pretty close. Like, Grimmsnarl has a lot of lines to take, and as I mentioned, like Iono plus Itchy Pollen's really good against them, so I don't think the deck's really good. Then Raging Bull Ogerpon, the deck is solid. Like, you don't have great matchup spreads, but the deck is always doing what it wants, it feels. Like, you're always putting pressure on your opponent and just forcing them to hit stuff, and if they miss, then you kind of just win. And yeah, it feels really good. The only thing is, it's super linear. If you go behind, you can't really get back ahead, and that feels bad, and I really wouldn't want to have a deck like that for the World Championships personally, but I don't fault people for playing it. Like, it's just solid. It's definitely worse now with the introduction of Shaman into the meta, because decks like Grimmsnarl are playing it, some Poltnor lists are playing it, some Guardy lists are playing it, so you kind of got to just keep that all in mind. Then Poltzard, I think Poltzard's worse than just straight Zard. Like, it's just doing Dragapult things worse and Zard things worse, which means it's not beating Gardevoir, it's not beating Grimmsnarl, it's not beating Poltnor. Like, the matchups just feel bad. But you do have a good Goldengo matchup and like a solid Raging Bolt matchup, so it's not too bad overall, but I think the deck is just a little too weak, and I'd rather just be playing straight Zard, which is always kind of it's always setting up and always pressuring your opponent, and it's really punishing misplays. And while Zard also just has a weak matchup spread, it is a bit better than Poltzard, I feel, since you have better odds into Gardevoir, since like Gardevoir needs to like draw like fairly decently, and if they miss a turn, and you kind of just run over them. And yeah, so I think Pidgeot Zard is a little bit better than Poltzard. I think Poltzard's pretty weak, but I do think it's still B tier, just because you kind of get carried on the fact that you're a Polt deck, and Polt is so broken. Then C tier, I think, is Gardevoir, Jellicent, I think Joltik Box might be above it. Terrabox and Pengo. It's probably more like this. So Terrabox doesn't really do anything special. Like, I think if you want to play a Noctowl deck, you should play Bolts or EVs. I think both of those just do what you need it to do, but better. Like, Terrabox is just really prone to Ionos compared to like Raging Bolt or Flareon. It feels, I mean, even Flareon is, but like Terra Box is just so fragile because their attackers are so like 200, 210 HP versus like the chunkier Flareon and Sylveon and Leafeon. So I think the deck is probably like the worst, but I actually don't think it's that bad of a play overall. It's just fine. Like, it's a very unimpressive deck. And then I think Pengo's just, it's worse than Dengo. Like, the strength of Dengo right now is that you get to play 4 boss, and you just really get to aggress your opponent, and Pengo loses that a lot. So I just don't think it's worth it. Gardevoir Jellicent is getting carried on the fact it's a Gardevoir deck, but the Jellicent, it takes up so much space for, like, such low value. Like, it doesn't, you lost owning Monkeys and Mirror is really cool, but it doesn't really do anything against Poltnor. In fact, it's really abusable by Poltnor. Goldengas are playing Lavincia, so you can't, like, stall them out, and the 4 boss, so it's really not that effective against them. And then you're just lowering your consistency into Grimmsnarl and less Monkeys into Grimmsnarl, which means you're harming that matchup. So overall, I don't think it's viable to play like a heavy Jellicent line. Like, I think the Frillish is really solid. It's a lot better than Budew, because the whole issue with Budew is there's so much Monkey in the format that it's just a free prize for your opponent, which you can't afford. But the Frillish is like not a free prize since it has 80 HP, and it's like dealing with other Budews really efficiently. So I see the room for like 1/1 Jellicent or even just 1 Frillish in Guardy, but that doesn't really like constitute Guardy Jellicent in my opinion. So. And Joltik box, like, your Gardevoir matchup's just not good, your Poltnor matchup's not very good, your Goldengo matchup's like, your Grimmsnarl matchup's good, but your matchup threat's just not good enough. Like, Raging Bolt's also bad, like, you just can't really, the deck's not great. But it's similar to, like, Charizard Pidgeot, where you just always do what you want, and if your opponent misses or misplays, you kind of just get away with the game. Now, in D tier, I think these decks all suck. So we have Ho-Oh Armourouge. I think it's the best one. It just has so many options, but the deck just doesn't have a real engine, so it kind of falters a lot of time. Ethan's Typhlosion. The S tier decks need to be out of the format, and Grimmsnarl. Like, these 3 decks just kind of destroy it, I felt, and yeah, it feels really bad. Then probably Crustle. Crustle just gets free wins off bad decks, but if your Guardy opponent, Grimmsnarl opponent, or Poltnor opponent is competent and playing a good list, it's a fine matchup. You really just, you beat bad players if feels with Crustle or just bad lists right now. So I don't think Crustle's ever worth playing to Worlds. Versus something like Iron Thorns last year, where Iron Thorns actually just like was solid. Like, you're just judging people out of the game a lot of times. Crustle doesn't have that same ability because it's just a lot more fragile and inconsistent. So I think like Miraidon Eels, like the Zekrom's a really impressive attacker, but it's like it's really abusable to skip Zekrom turns, like by Gardevoir, Poltnor, and Grimmsnarl. They can all just skip the turns really easily. So I think the deck's just too weak on that front. And finally with Cynthia's Garchomp, which it has a good Gardevoir matchup allegedly. I haven't tested it. I'm not 100% sure on it. But you have, like, such a bad Poltnor matchup, such a bad Groomy matchup. Your Goldengo matchup doesn't seem great. Like, the Goldengo matchup might be fine. Like, it might be too straining on their energies. But since they're all playing Lavincias right now, I'm not sure if that's too big of a deal. So you're really just struggling into these top 4 decks. So I think these 5 decks are just unplayable in probably this order. And, yeah, this is kind of where I'm at with the tier list. I don't know, my top decks right now are like Guardy, Poltnor, Zoroark, Grimmsnarl. I'm just not a fan of like Goldengo because it kind of similar to what I said about Raging Bolt. If it gets behind, it doesn't have too much like way to get back in the game. So it just feels bad to be playing that. Like a deck with that little agency for Worlds. And yeah, that's kind of where I think about everything. I think this list is pretty accurate. I think the only potentially biased one is Zoroark. I love Zoroark. It's so much fun. Like, maybe it's more like mid B tier or top of B tier, but I think it's A tier. I think the deck has a lot of potential, and it's just really flexible in how it can be built. So yeah, that's kind of all I have. You should go follow me on Twitter. Check out my Metafy if you want coaching. And yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.